Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Antisocial Commentary number 3, the film podcast where we watch the movie with you, and we got the timer in the background. So when I push play, we push play at the same time, and we watch the movie together. First of all, I would just like to say anything I say or do about this movie in regards to this podcast, I'm not going to be able to do it justice. At first, I wanted to study everything about this movie and learn everything about this movie. But then I realized that I'm not going to be able to make this the perfect podcast because it's the perfect movie and everybody has their own opinion when it comes to this fucking movie. It's one of the most beautiful movies in the world. So here we go. We're going to start watching Goodfellas together. Well, here we go. Here, we'll start off with action. Huh? Yeah, okay, cool. So we got the DVD right here inside the DVD player right now. We are at the 0000 mark, and we are going to push play as soon as I find my remote. There it is. We're going to push play on the DVD player, and we're going to push play on the timer at the same time. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, play. There we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are off to the races. Here we go. Like I said, I tried to learn a lot about this movie, but there's just so much to learn. I'll never get it perfect, so I just decided, fuck it, let's watch this movie together. This beautiful Martin Scorsese picture starring the real Godfather Robert De Niro and Ray Liotta, rest in peace Ray Liotta, and Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci won an Oscar for this movie, and when he won an Oscar, he has the shortest Oscar speech on record, I believe, which was, it was my privilege, thank you. That's all he said when he accepted his Oscar. Very, very stand-up guy with a really sweet stand-up speech there as far as that goes. I'm excited to watch this movie with y'all, and if my kids are watching this movie right now, first of all, I hope you're old enough, and second of all, Drayton, this is one of the coolest movies in the world, man. Let's check it out, brother. Brother, my son, right? That's my son, but yeah. Okay, here we go. Yeah, we got bats in the background. I love the psych out here at the beginning where it comes across like it might just be a flat tire or car trouble. And then you get totally psyched out and find out it's actually a guy in the trunk. We don't know who that guy is, but if we watch this movie before, we all know that it's, spoiler alert, obviously for this whole podcast, we all know that it's bats. Played by Frank Vincent. Frank Vincent does such an awesome job at being bats that when Frank Vincent walks down the street, they actually go, "Hey, you're Billy Bats from Goodfellas," and yeah, he's forever cemented in film legacy as Billy Bats, right? And that knife that Joe Pesci used to stab bats at the beginning here. That knife was the old school retractable knife there. That's why you can see Joe Pesci stop when it retracts there. But it still looks very gruesome. Like, in fact, test audiences actually had to leave the theater because they were sick, And the thing about that opening scene that you can tell is like the back red light. Take note about the back red light right now, and then later on it'll come into play. So, Nicholas Pileggi made the book Wise Guy using Henry Hill's life. And Henry Hill, of course, being introduced to Henry Hill right now, that is young Henry Hill, played by Christopher Serrone. But yeah, that opening gruesome scene there that made test audiences walk out. And a lot of the test audiences actually responded negatively when it came to this movie. They responded like, "Can't all the gangsters just, get along and have fun and have a good time?" And then Martin Scorsese was like, "This is real life. This is documentary. Real life is about tragedy." And, this is almost like a documentary. So this is like one of the most beautiful films of all time. We got the opening introduction of the gangsters. Tutty Cicero, who was he played by? He was played by Frank DiLeo, and that is Paul Cicero's brother in this movie. They were, I can't, the Paul Vero. What the hell are their real names there? Like Vario. So like Paul Cicero is based on the real life person Paul Vario, and then Tutty Cicero was actually Vito Vario. So like this is really authentically based on what Henry Hill has experienced in his life. At least by word of mouth. Like he gave that word of mouth to Nicholas Pileggi, and they made a really beautiful book that Martin Scorsese adapted with Nicholas Pileggi. And when Nicholas Pileggi and Martin Scorsese were working on the script, together, Nicholas Pileggi was like, hey, here's what happens in this part of the book. And then Martin Scorsese was like, that's a scene. And then Pileggi would be like, here's what happens at another part of the book. And then Martin Scorsese would be like, that's a scene, which is awesome. Car buffs, as far as I know, I believe this is the car. I think this part of the film is in 1964. But the car nuts in the world, the people who know how to tell an automobile by the year and all that shit there, I believe they pointed out that car that Henry was driving or something like that was actually from 1965 opposed to the 1964. But yeah, Tutty is cool, man. Like, you know, in the movie anyway, I do, as far as like the real life Vito and the real life Paulie, like I don't even want to imagine, man. Like, I mean, if you're on their good side, I'm sure they're cool people, but man, I don't even want to, you know, like, respect, man. Respect for sure. Love this part right here because reminds me of when I was a bit younger there. The old man actually broke my nose before and, you know, never really got to set it back into place or whatever. And there's a bump right there that I'll always have. That was from when I was a kid. But, yeah, it's just traditional native upbringing, a lot like the traditional Italian upbringing, I guess. Well, his dad's Irish, but yeah, you get it. Let's see what we got here. Tried to write down some facts to remember a little bit. Oh yeah, they filmed for 3 months in 1989, from May until August. Mostly in New York and in Florida and New Jersey, but mostly in New York, which is actually movies like this, like Martin Scorsese movies and stuff like that are like based in New York. Like that's part of the reason I glamorize New York, but a huge part of why I glamorize New York is I would love to be able to do the comedy circuits in New York. I love Tutty. The way like Tutty takes Henry under his wing at the pizza place and all that stuff there. Yeah, that freeze frame on that mailman's face there, that's it's good. And the comedy of them running across the street back and forth just to give Paulie a message quickly and then running back with the umbrella holding, like that shit's hilarious. The old big cigar in his mouth there. When it comes to people and cigars, man, like I feel like anybody under the age of 30 shouldn't be smoking a cigar unless somebody older is like, here you go, son, or here you go, junior, you know. But yeah, it just seems like such a old school, older person kind of, you know, like cigarette compared to cigar, you know, just like those old school people playing poker. with the cigar in their mouth. Like, here we go. We're going to place 369s, ladies and gentlemen. A big thing about the mafia and this movie is that a lot of people from the mafia would actually show up on set. And yeah, it would scare a lot of the people, the production crew for Goodfellas there, to be like, excuse me, can I see your pass, sir? Whoa, I don't need a pass. What do I need a pass for? You know, I was gonna get here. It's like, okay, that's a real mobster. I'm going to leave him alone. But yeah, for authenticity, they used a lot of real mobsters for their extras. Ah, yes. Nothing like torching a couple of cars, you know? Today's beverage will be the rest of my milk. Try not to show the label, but that's what it is. I'll do this for free anyway. Delicious. Yeah, it's a sweet scene there with the cars all up in flames behind Henry there. Christopher Serrone, again, just like a legend for being in this movie in general, right? And right here you can see some of Henry Hill's humanity, right? The fact that he cares so much more about this guy who got shot and is bleeding in front of Tutty's Pizza Place there. Like, that shows that Henry Hill isn't as much of a sociopath, you know. But let's be honest here. When Nick Pileggi was writing the book, he was asking Henry Hill his account of the life story. And when you're telling your life story, are you going to tell Nicholas Pileggi, oh yeah, I killed a bunch of people, this is the person I killed, I popped him, shot him in the back of the head, you know, like, so like if Henry Hill actually did kill anybody in real life, he probably kept it to himself while he was, you know, making this book with Nicholas Pileggi. Here he comes, Jimmy Conway. Fucking Robert De Niro, right? Like, I once read an article that said Robert De Niro. Sorry, I love this part. Once read an article that said Robert De Niro is one of the greatest, is the greatest actor of all time. And I was a kid at the time. I was like, no, he's not. Bruce Campbell is, or something like that, right? But then when you grow up and realize, like, how fucking phenomenal of an actor Robert De Niro really is, and like you just have to agree, man. All of the acting credits and stuff that he has, like all of his great movies, it's awesome. I like how there's like a subtle shout out to The Irishman. Like, I don't think that Scorsese knew that he was going to do The Irishman until till after the year 2000s and all that stuff there. But like the fact that Robert De Niro says The Irishman and all that stuff in that scene when he's gambling, it's almost like a unintentional foreshadow for Martin Scorsese later on directing The Irishman, which is another epic, amazing story. Yeah, Jimmy was according to Henry Hill, Jimmy Burke, the real life Jimmy that, Jimmy Conway is who he is in the movie. But the real life Jimmy Burke and the real life Tommy DeSimone, he's Tommy DeVito in the movie. In real life, apparently they were like 90% accurate in the movie, portraying the characters that they were. So that's how fucking crazy and fucking, like sociopathic and just psychotic these people were back in the day, when it came to, not having any respect for human life kind of thing, and society. But back then this was way more normal, and back then it was so much easier to get away with shit. These days it's a little bit harder to commit insurance scams and all that stuff, and and when you rob somebody in 2025, there's a camera every 100 meters anywhere. And there's a camera on all of our phones there. Oh, that lawyer, what the fuck is his name there? Frank Albanese. Yeah, that lawyer there was Frank Albanese, and he was actually in The Sopranos, and he died in 2015. But that smile is iconic, almost as iconic as this speech that DeNiro is about to give. Growing up, everybody sounds like this. Growing up, every adult I had sounded like that Robert De Niro part. Yeah, the part where Paulie and the crew there are waiting for Henry Hill in in the court waiting room or whatever it is. That's fucking hilarious and awesome. It made Henry feel like he belonged. But also a funny bit that happened with Joe List and Joe DeRosa. Joe List was doing one of the late night shows for the first time or whatever it was, and then after he did that late night set, I'm talking about a stand-up comedian here, Joe List. He's really awesome. Go check it out. But after they did that late night set, Joe List walked back to the room where Joe DeRosa was, and Joe DeRosa was like, "Hey, you broke your cherry." That's just awesome, dude. But yeah, now they're all grown up, the young Henry was Christopher Serrone, and the young Tommy was Joseph D'Onofrio, not related to Vincent D'Onofrio. But now we're introduced to. Oh no, wait, it's Joe Pesci now. Sorry, sorry, Joe Pesci looks so young that I didn't recognize him. But one thing about Joe Pesci in the story that I heard about was that he was originally up for Paulie. And then Joe Pesci was like, no, I want to play Tommy. And then Martin Scorsese was like, no, you're going to play Paulie. And then Joe Pesci was like, no, I'm going to fucking play Tommy. It's like, fucking damn it. Then Martin Scorsese hung up the phone, later on called Joe Pesci and said, yeah, okay, you got Tommy. And then they figured it out, right? So, more or less, that's summing up the story. Oh, and that guy who said, those two guys stole my truck there. What word he used there. But that guy who said that there are two guys who stole my truck, that was Larry Walter, and he actually recently died in October. It's 2025 right now, November 22nd, and he died in October 2025. Pete the Killer. The introduction to the glamorous life of the mafia. Gotta love Jimmy two times. And of course we got what's his name there? What the hell's his name there? He owns the restaurant. I cannot for the life of me remember it there, but oh my goodness. Oh yeah, Tony Darrow. Sonny Buns, and he's the restaurant owner. And I always felt bad for Sonny, the character, Sonny Buns. Man, I wonder how easy getting away with crime must have been before all the cameras and the internet and shit like that, man. It must have been so fucking easy. to the point that John Mulaney actually has a bit about bank robbers, how they would dress up, make a day out of it, and then shoot their name in the side of the wall. Like, yeah, go check out that stand up as well. I probably shouldn't have brought the whole 4 liter of milk, but it's a pretty long movie, so. But yeah, Frenchie. You got Frenchie played by what the fuck is it? Mike Starr, and Mike Starr was in the movie Dumb and Dumber. With Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels, and he was awesome as the mobster in Dumb and Dumber. When he eats the hot pepper and Jim Carrey points and laughs at him, it's fucking awesome. But yeah, Frenchie, I think if I'm not mistaken, in the book Wise Guy by Nicholas Pileggi, and in the movie as well, he's a big reason for the airport heist. He's the one who supplied the information to Jimmy Burke, aka the Jimmy Conway playing in the movie here. And this is the scene that I believe Joe Pesci won an Oscar for. Originally, this scene the scene was ad-libbed by Joe Pesci and Ray Liotta, and it's based on an experience Joe Pesci had during his singing career. He told a mobster that he was funny, and that mobster didn't take it well. Look at everybody's faces around them. Carbone. You stuttering prick. That right there, when he says you might fold under questioning, for me that was like a subtle foreshadow to Henry becoming a rat, you know? Aw. Yeah, and in Tommy's defense here, though, the restaurant owner did choose kind of a public moment to embarrass Tommy. Love that look of disgust that Ray Liotta gives the restaurant manager. The real Tommy was actually like 6'4" or something like that, or 6'2" or whatever, like 250 pounds. And a lot like the way the Shawshank Redemption kind of makes Andy big and tall, when the real Andy in the book is like Tom Cruise height, short. It's kind of neat to see that opposite kind of ironic thing happen in Goodfellas, where in the book Tommy is like 6 feet tall, and then in the movie he's like 5'4", Joe Pesci or whatever. Paulie is so good, man. So awesome. Such a good actor, Paul Sorvino. My favorite Paul Sorvino moments, movies, Money Talks and C Spot Run. Sorry, it's a good movie. C Spot Run, yeah. But yeah, originally, Paulie was extremely nervous, and he was almost looking for a way to get out of this movie. You know, it was, oh fuck, how can I cancel on Marty? Or whatever. Yeah. And eventually, Paul Sorvino was practicing for the character, and he looked at himself in the mirror, and then he had like some dead inside Paulie look that scared him. And he was like, okay, I'm ready to be Paulie. Then, of course, history wrote itself. That fucking look that Paulie gives that restaurant owner. That's the look. That's the look. That's the look that gave Paul Sorvino his confidence to portray Paulie. Cool thing about Paulie, like Martin Scorsese elected to make his character more of a side character, whereas in real life, Paulie had a lot more pull. You know, like it was more about Henry and Tommy and Jimmy for Martin Scorsese than Paulie. He didn't want to just make it another mob boss movie. But Paulie is a great character. Paul Sorvino, awesome. Man, this part about committing insurance scams and shit like that, like, all too real. And oh, I feel so bad. I feel so bad for the restaurant owner, because he doesn't know what he's getting into when he says to Paulie, hey, maybe you can come in on this and we can be partners in the restaurant business. When he was asking Paulie that, it's like he didn't know that Paulie was going to have him under his thumb the entire fucking time, right? But yeah, man, so much easier to get away with crimes like this back in the day, as opposed to now, where it's like everything is on film and everything is online and everything, you know, all that shit. We're in the information day and age now, and this movie was just before the information age. In the information age, it's going to keep evolving, and everybody is going to know everything about everybody for the most part at the end of the day. So, just a lesson for the people looking forward to the future. If you can't do it publicly and openly in 2025 and on, odds are you're not going to get away with it, dude. But yeah, this part's awesome. Where the building's actually burning down behind them. Lorraine Bracco, Harvey Keitel's baby mama. That's who Lorraine Bracco is. Karen Hill. Karen Hill's awesome. Like, Lorraine played it so well. Originally, Lorraine did not want to play the character as much as Martin Scorsese hoped. Martin Scorsese had to convince Lorraine Bracco to take on the role of Karen Hill. And they had to convince her that, hey, you're going to be narrating in a Martin Scorsese movie. You're going to be one of the only females to ever narrate in a Martin Scorsese movie. And then after reading the book Wise Guy again and again, like, Lorraine Bracco kind of realized, like, holy shit, this woman is a mafia princess, and this role is a big deal. And of course, she just nails it, absolutely nails it. Beautiful actress, talented actress, and yeah, one of the best DVDs ever, man. I love this part, man. Like, that yeah, that happens. Like, when you stand up a woman and she's into you, if you stand her up, she does flip out. It happened to me before. This movie is, like I said, it's more like a documentary than a movie, you know. But yeah, it's like the most accurate mockumentary of mafia life ever. Can't remember if I said this, but Martin Scorsese said that the lead character in this movie is not actually Henry Hill. It's not actually Jimmy Conway. It's not actually Tommy DeVito. It's actually Tommy's mom, Martin Scorsese's mom. No, I'm just joking. It's actually the lifestyle of the mafia, you know, like the lifestyle, the glamorous lifestyle that they portray. And, like, honestly, like, the good parts, you know, before the downfall, like this part where it's all one cut, it's all like one sweet scene, and, like, they're showing you a glimpse of how everybody's kissing Henry's ass for being a part of the mafia syndicate, how everybody's kind of like looking up to them, and, like, that, you know, respect thing, like that glamorous thing, like that's like the lead character, like the glamour, and then later on the tragedy. But right now, the glamorous part, so fucking awesome. And, like, this isn't the first movie to do the still camera, like, one shot thing, but as far as, like, film schools and stuff like that go, this scene has been studied immensely, because, like, all that goes into it, all of the side characters, like, Scorsese creates a realm. And I can't remember, I'm going to look this one up. I can't remember the camera operator during this scene, but he needs to be fucking, you know, like, he needs to be noted. He needs to be noted. Who did the camera for the still cam shot for Goodfellas? Larry McConkey. Larry McConkey was the one holding the camera, you know, camera over his shoulder and shit like that, running through the restaurant, getting this footage of the waiter with the fucking table above his head, putting it down at the front of the show here. Like, Larry McConkey. Salute. Film history salutes you, sir. So yeah, to my kids there, when I say the guy holding the camera, the still cam, Larry McConkey and stuff like that, I mean, like, there's a big, huge crew that goes into making an entire movie, and there are specific jobs in the movie industry that you can do. And even though everybody wants to be the leading star of a movie and everybody wants to be the leading director of a movie and stuff like that, there are still jobs that you can do in the film industry to get your foot into the door. And unfortunately, I never had any show business connections, and I never really pursued that because of that. My cousin Dan Zachary is a director, or he passed away almost like 10 years ago, I think. But yeah, he passed away, and ever since then, I've just I feel like I'm the remaining filmmaker in the family, but I never got around to it yet, so I better get around to it before it's too late. But yeah, this stand-up comedy, that stand-up comedian there, he's hilarious. I want to say, there we go. Let's see. Who is the stand-up comedian in Goodfellas at the restaurant? Frank Pellegrino Sr., if I'm not mistaken, but yeah. Or is it Henny Youngman? I don't know, fuck. Should have did more research, but definitely one of the greatest movies of all time, and I just wanted to do the podcast today because I felt like doing that, and it makes me happy. That's my favorite line in this whole movie, I think, when DeNiro says, "It's gonna be a good summer." That is how they used to do it, though. Yeah, where'd you get all this money? If you stole it, or if you made it by selling drugs or whatever it is, we just say, "Hey, I won it gambling." No questions asked after that, because sometimes you do win. Oh, this guy's pretty creepy here. That Mark Jacobs, he plays Bruce, the tennis player here. Creepy fuck. He's trying to move in on fucking Henry's woman there, Karen. But yeah, the glamour shown by the mafia lifestyle, but yeah, the lifestyle that is portrayed in the movie, so seductive. And it takes a special kind of breed, for example, but a lot of these guys, though, they have that do as I say, not as I do kind of mentality when it comes to their kids and stuff like that. For example, some people I know were gangsters growing up, and those gangsters would always tell me that, "Hey, Darren, that's not the life that you want." So I always stayed clear of dealing drugs and beating people up for money and shit like that. I've always stayed clear of that shit. But there is a criminal underworld that is very real, and it exists, and it's all around us. Maury. Maury is hilarious. And Maury being so obnoxious, and that just the way Maury's character plays, it's perfect. It's the way Henry's laughing at him, and the way that he has that cheap commercial and all that stuff there, like, like Maury's awesome. I checked the address for Maury, and when it comes to Maury, what am I trying to say here? When it comes to that address in the commercial that Maury does, there's actually on like 26 Queens Boulevard, I think it is. If I'm not mistaken, there's like a faux noodle place there next to like a tandoori kind of restaurant or whatever. But yeah, it's funny when they use real addresses in movies and shit like that. No, poor old Karen. I don't like the fact that in 2025 a Karen is like somebody like the Phillies baseball lady Karen, you know, that Karen. But like Karen in Goodfellas is awesome, and watching Karen's character development, like, I mean, all of the main characters in this movie are awesome, and they have sweet character development. But like watching Karen go from sweet Jewish woman to, like just seduced by the glamorous lifestyle that Henry shows her and shit like that. Like, that stuff's amazing. And then, this scene's awesome. This scene is great here. It's all in one cut. And that Mark Jacobs fellow, if I'm not mistaken, he has like a blood pack in his hand or something like that, and then he fucking rubs it on his face right there to make it look real. And then, yeah, man, that beating looks so real. And that's due to the rehearsal that Ray Liotta, the genius of Ray Liotta, and even the genius of Mark Jacobs, the way he simulates taking an ass kicking right there in front of his two buddies in his car there. Like, there's something so fucking beautiful about that scene being choreographed, that choreographed violence, But yeah, for being such a young actor, like the way Ray Liotta was, like, this is his 5th movie and his 13th acting credit. Like, being as young as he was, he does such a good job there. And like when he's out of breath, handing Karen the bloody gun, like a scene like that, that almost could have won the guy an Oscar in my eyes. But I might not have like the greatest eye for Oscars, because I was saying that Edward Norton should have won an Oscar for American History X in my last episode of this podcast. But at the end of American History X, Edward Norton, he doesn't really have any real tears, and I think that's what made him not win the Oscar, and that's why Roberto Benigni won it. But there's Martin Scorsese's mom there. I love Martin Scorsese's mom. She's in a lot of his movies, and she's like, Martin Scorsese's parents, like, they seem really fucking cool. Like, the way they come off very supportive. Like, I don't know anything about their relationship, but like the fact that Martin Scorsese's mom and dad are in Goodfellas and like other movies and stuff like that with Martin Scorsese directing. Like, to me, that conveys that what were their names? I can't remember her name, dude. It was like Charles and like, was it Karen Scorsese or something? Cannot remember her name for the life of me. But yeah, his mom is so awesome here. I'm gonna look it up here again. Martin Scorsese's mom and dad. Catherine Scorsese. I apologize there. My respects to Catherine Scorsese and Charles Scorsese. But yeah, like Catherine and Charles Scorsese, like, they just seemed like, just judging from a fan perspective, they just seem so supportive of Martin Scorsese and just overall like good parents. You know, like I love that. I love that. That's awesome. I love that scene. I can't wait to get married one day, ladies and gentlemen. But when I do it, it's gonna be one of those campy weddings, either like in Las Vegas or somewhere in Canada where they do like theme weddings. We'll do a Goodfellas wedding or like a James Bond wedding or like a Beetlejuice wedding or something. But when I find my Karen Hill, yeah, can't wait. If I ever find one, but I always wanted to marry a sweet Jewish woman. Like Karen, always like she seems good, but actually in real life, and Martin Scorsese chose to keep this out of the movie. But in real life, Paul Vario, who is being portrayed by Paul Sorvino, who is named Paul Cicero in Goodfellas. In real life, Karen Hill and Paul Vario were fucking behind Henry Hill's back. So that's a little bit sad, but there is no honor among thieves. There is no honor among those people for the most part, right? The woman playing Karen's mom nailed it. Nailed it. Like every relationship that I've ever had where the mom was like really, really like surly and outspoken like that. Like every relationship I ever had where the mom was like that, nailed it exactly like that. Catherine Scorsese holding the dog in the back. The thing about the jewelry that Karen wears throughout the movie, Lorraine Bracco. Lorraine Bracco was saying that to the costume department, it's like, do you want me to be a real mafia princess? Then I'm going to need some real mafia jewelry. And then the costume department went out and got Lorraine Bracco like real jewelry instead of the costume jewelry. There's a subtle foreshadowing here. The subtle foreshadow of a card game and a shooting that comes into play later on in the movie. Karen being catty about the other mobsters' wives. Right now, the way Henry Hill is laughing at prison. The real Henry Hill said, when he was younger, there was almost a feeling he had of like invincibility in regards to like, oh, I'll never get pinched, I'll never be thrown away, stuff like that. And that whole thing, like what he's about to say here, people don't go to jail unless they want to thing, like that's some crazy shit, man. very tasteful, because the love-making scene between Henry and his wife there, like all you really see is like the edge of the nipple. Like it's like very well shot, and it doesn't make Lorraine Bracco look bad. It makes Lorraine Bracco look like a real committed actress, and it accentuates her beauty, opposed to something like what's an example where nudity kind of makes the character look cheap. Monsters Ball, where Halle Berry was very hot in Monsters Ball, but it made her look cheap where she was like fully nude. Or Original Sin with Angelina Jolie. Again, she looked awesome in that movie. And of course the Margaret Qualley and Demi Moore movie, The Substance. Like those movies made their actresses look relatively cheap to a certain degree. Like even though I like those movies, but you know what I mean. In this movie, Goodfellas, they didn't have to show that nudity. They made Lorraine Bracco look like a real, yeah. You get what I'm trying to say here. Tinder. Not yet. Yeah, actually, while we're waiting on Tinder here, I'll show you how I like to do my Tinder, basically. So basically, I'll have my Tinder up, and it's like, oh, you're ready to start matching again, and then I'll just push the heart button without even really looking. I'll just keep pushing it like that, and then whoever I match with, and at the end of the day, I just kind of choose whether or not to message her. Because at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, no matter what you do, when you get into a relationship with somebody, typically it's up to the woman, right? Like typically the woman chooses you. Like I've only had about 16 girlfriends, and about, I had sex like 30 different women, and each time I had girlfriends, they would always come to me. And every time that I had a baby with one of my baby mamas or something like that, it was always them asking me for our kids. But yeah, back to the movie here, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize about that. All those beautiful suit jackets. The thing about the suit jacket and the way the people dressed in the mafia and the mob and stuff like that, the way they're like, oh, it's just a bunch of guys in cheap suits. The thing about the coat, you can hide a lot of guns and knives in the coat pocket. So it's a thing where it's like you look respectable in a suit like that, but you can conceal so many weapons and so much contraband and paraphernalia, whatever you need to. You can keep that all in your coat because there's so much pocket room in them. So that's why I've always felt like the whole mafia suit thing was always a thing. And the irony of looking respectable while being somebody who commits crime through an organization, like a giant conspiracy, the irony of looking that presentable and stuff like that it's always there. And this is Bat's birthday party, right? And you can't help but feel a little bit bad for Bat's birthday party. There's 4 people there. At least I think it's a birthday party, but I think it's more like a celebration, because the real Bats, if I remember correctly, the real Bats in real life, I can't remember his name right now, but he did 6 years in jail for drug trafficking. And when he got out, he was a made man, and he decided to celebrate at Henry Hill's bar. In real life, it was it took a bit more time to get to Bats. In real life, it was more Bats made fun of Tommy DeSimone, and it was a slow burn where Tommy ended up killing him like weeks later. In the movie, though, the way Martin Scorsese keeps bats in the bar and like has it adapted for like one solid scene, like that works so much better for the movie. But yeah, you can see the fragile ego of Tommy throughout the whole movie, causing him to be the loose cannon of them all. And that look that Robert De Niro is giving bats right now, that look is worth 1,000 words, man. It's like, you're messing with my buddy Tommy, man. You have some friends and stuff like that there, and the way Bats is like, come on, come on. A lot of those friends, like when they would get like too drunk or whatever, and like a lot of them would actually sound like Bats, and I was like, okay, I got to get you out of this bar before they make you like Bats, you know. But if you got a couple of drunk friends who like drinking, and they get fucking cocky like that when they drink, you know what I mean, man. I've looked out for friends like that before in the past. I love that smile that Robert De Niro gives him. No, you insulted him a little bit, you know. The whole like freaking soundtrack in this movie is awesome. The music during this scene, what a juxtaposition. Just such beautiful music playing in the background as they beat the fuck out of Bats. Oh, my favorite part here is when Robert De Niro is kicking him there, just the way he's doing it. Like the way he's stomping on Bats' face and booting at him there, like the way his body is moving like that, like he's using proper form. like it's so authentically realistic looking, as opposed to the stomping that Robert De Niro does in The Irishman. In The Irishman, he's 75 and he's trying to play a 40-year-old, and when he does the stomping scene, he looks 75. But I hopped on board with The Irishman like right away because like it's a great movie. But yeah, back to this movie. I love that line by Joe Pesci, because there's like no fucking regard for human life whatsoever, but he felt bad for getting blood on Henry's floor, which is another reason test audiences were kind of like sickened by this movie, like at least some of them. But yeah, the test audiences sounded like a bunch of pussies. Like, can't we just show the gangsters having a good time? Basically. Catherine Scorsese is so fucking awesome. She seems like such a loving mother, She seems like such a sweetheart. Rest in peace, Catherine Scorsese. Respect. I love the glasses, the old school glasses. One of those bifocals. Do they have lines in them? I can't tell, but yeah, she's a sweetheart. She reminds me of my grandmother, The criminal lifestyle, right? Like, if you can lie to your mother, you can lie to anybody. If you can lie to your mother, then your destiny might be that of a criminal. I can't lie to my mom. I love her too much, like, because I'm too much of an honest guy. But yeah, like, just watching, Joe Pesci play Tommy, like, playing his mother, basically. Like, yeah, give me this knife. I'll bring it back. Don't worry about it. You know, we hit a deer. The hoof. The hoof. You know, like, watching that shit, it's awesome. And the picture in the background of Jesus and the Last Supper, I feel that because they just, they're starting their downfall right now because they're killing bats, that Last Supper in the background of Goodfellas during the supper that they eat with the mother here and stuff like that, I feel that that's like the night before their downfall. And Scorsese has said that after they kill bats, that's when everything starts kind of going downhill for them. Catherine Scorsese gets to crack a joke at the table next to Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, and Ray Liotta. Fuck, that's awesome. I want this painting. Like, I'll get a poster of the painting, but, like, I want that painting. What do you want from me? I like the discomfort that Ray Liotta shows throughout the dinner scene there. Because, yeah, like, he's the only one who still has kind of a conscience throughout the entire movie. Like, the only, like, purity in this movie is, like, Catherine Scorsese. Everybody else is basically, like, either dirty or becoming dirty from everybody around them, you know? And that beautiful retracting knife. Classic squibs. But yeah, notice that there's red light in the background there. And then at the beginning of the movie, the red light from the brakes. And yeah, like, that's coming into play again. And the red light in the bar as well when they're killing bats. Just seems like that red light is signifying their downfall. And then the way it almost like fades out to red. And then, of course, the Last Supper in the background as they're eating supper together. Like, fuck yeah. Like, so yeah, this is Tommy and them, like, they're hanging out with their girlfriends and shit. But in real life, I heard that Tommy had a girlfriend, and that girlfriend started talking shit to Tommy's wife. And then in front of Henry, the real Henry in real life, Tommy walked into like a bar or whatever it was. As far as I heard, Tommy walked in, and then he beat the fuck out of his girlfriend, and like, I think he killed her because she was talking to his wife. And it's like, you're my girlfriend, what the fuck you talking to my wife for? And he like beat the shit out of her with a bat, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and this part, of course, like, there's just something so fucking amazing about this part. Because, like, with all of the violence and the fucking crimes they commit and all that shit, you can just see on Carbone's face, on, Tommy's face, you can just see, like, their heart in it for that singer right in front of them there. And fun fact about Joe Pesci was that originally he had a singing career and he wanted to be a singer. I can't remember the name of the people that he played with, like the band. I can't remember the group, but actually somebody he played with in that band was named Tommy DeVito, and that was actually a coincidence from what I heard. Like when Scorsese was choosing names for the characters, because he didn't want to use the real Tommy DiSimone, he didn't want to use the real Jimmy Burke, but he used the real name Henry Hill. I believe it's for legal issues. He used like a little bit of a pseudonym. Like when he chose those names, like coincidentally, he chose Tommy DeVito. And I believe that, if I'm not mistaken, that while Joe Pesci was in his singing days and working as a band, he performed with somebody named Tommy DeVito. And that girl right there, that is Stella Keitel. That girl that Karen is holding, if I'm not mistaken, that's Stella Keitel. And that is the actual daughter of Harvey Keitel and Lorraine Bracco, if I'm not mistaken there. And right here, you can tell that Paulie is on to them. The way Paulie talks in code. Scorsese chose to make Paulie a bit more of a sideline character, but in the real folklore of what happened there was that Paulie is on to them. Paulie knows that they had something to do with killing bats. Which will come into play later. There's that red light again, and that the red light comes up every time like bats is mentioned or whatever there. And now the way the light is just super red right now, Martin Scorsese has said that killing bats is part of their downfall, and a lot of people who love this movie have shared the same kind of feeling. But yeah, this is definitely where the movie starts to take a turn from the glamorous lifestyle of the mafia to like, oh my god, I wish I was that fucking cool, I wish I was that fucking awesome, to like, hey, this is actually dangerous. You like the way life goes, this particular gangster life goes, you're either going to end up in jail or dead. That's starting to manifest as we reach nearly the halfway point of the movie. Almost there. Debbie Mazur. Fucking love Debbie Mazur. She was so hot back in the day. I mean, she's probably still hot, but I'm just saying, like Debbie Mazur, she was really pretty in this movie. And I love Debbie Mazur in the show Friends when I think Rachel has the baby, and Rachel is in labor. Debbie Mazur has a character that gets rolled into the same room. There she is right now, fucking looking really hot with her hair back like that, like she's a vampire or something. But yeah, like Debbie's character in the show Friends, where she calls everybody bastard, fucking hilarious. Go check out that episode where Rachel has the baby of Friends. But yeah, that kind of like bullying and extortion these days it just seems so much harder to get away with because everything is filmed, everything can be posted online, everybody can have their own opinion, and everybody can have their own thing when it comes to community and stuff like that. So like, this was a time period piece. This movie will be timeless. Yes, there'll always be a timeless quality. It'll always be a beautiful and great movie. But a life like this, like, as much as as much as criminals will always be criminals and get away with shit like that, it'll never be like this openly criminalistic and sociopathic like it used to be. Can't remember what Spider's real name is. But yeah, I think his name is Michael Imperioli, but I can't remember. But he was in The Sopranos, and one day I will get around to watching all of The Sopranos. As the look of Carbone, when he's just trying to play cards. One of my nice fucking game. One of my friends there, he mentioned to me that he loved the soundtrack of this movie, but like we used to talk about Goodfellas a lot, and he said that I remind him of Carbone. And I was like, I was on board, like, until like you see what happens to Carbone later. But yeah, like, Carbone's awesome. Fun facts about Frank Sivero, who played Frankie Carbone. Fun fact about him: he tried to sue The Simpsons for $250 million for his likeness being in the show as the character Louie in The Simpsons. There's like Fat Tony, and then there's, I can't remember what the other one is, and then there's like Louie. The character Louie looks a lot like Frankie Carbone, looks a lot like Frankie Sivero. But one can argue that because The Simpsons is a cartoon and The Simpsons used parody in regards to like making their jokes of satire and stuff like that, the fact that it's a parody of, even if it was directly based on Frankie Carbone, the fact that it's a parody kind of puts them in the clear for not having to pay out $250 million. That seems so awesome, man, because like Spider is like the only one that stands up to Tommy in this entire movie, and you see what happens. The way Jimmy's busting his balls there. So, the real life Spider, according to Henry Hill, was shot in the thigh, not in the foot. And again, that total disregard for human life when he's like, well, I'm a good shot. But yeah. I love how they like just don't give a fuck about Spider's life, but they're like, they give a fuck about, like, you gotta dig the hole. You fucking dig the hole. Well, I dug a hole before. I'll fucking dig the hole. Where are the shovels? But yeah, that part's so awesome. In the VHS copy, that's where the movie would cut out. And then you would have to switch to the second VHS because it's like a 2.5 hour movie. And VHS only had whatever for the quality that they had. But yeah, the real life... I was watching Karen be a Karen. It's awesome. But the real life Spider was shot in the thigh, and also when it comes to police records and police researching and like investigating and all that stuff, when it comes to looking into Spider's life, they couldn't find any traces of any real Spider, like any real person who was Spider who Spider was based on in the movie and stuff like that. They couldn't find any actual real traces of Spider ever existing. So it's hard to tell where Henry Hill added stuff. It's hard to tell where Nicholas Pileggi, the author of the book Wise Guy, used hyperbole, or maybe once in a while had to exaggerate, or just maybe, just straight up kind of invent shit in order to piece it together. It's hard to tell, but this is, like, to me, the most realistic portrayal of mafia life out of all of the mobster movies ever, almost ever. Like a movie like The Godfather is awesome, had some authenticity, but it was based on a Mario Puzo book. It wasn't based on, Vito Corleone as a person or anything like that, whereas this one was actually based on Henry Hill, and you have interviews of Henry Hill talking about his life. And on this movie, they actually have a commentary of Henry Hill and his, like, arresting officer and stuff like that. This scene, both Ray and Lorraine, all in. All in. Like, Karen's passion for her man, and then, like, Henry knocking her off of him, and, like, yeah, how does it feel, Karen? And then her weeping, I'm sorry, and stuff like that. Like, wow, wow. I've had some pretty tough relationships, and I gotta say, man, realistic on the screen right there, for real. When I reflect on the real story of Paul Vario hooking up with Karen in real life, like, it makes me not like this scene where Paulie is telling Henry that you got to go back to Karen, you got to stop this cheating business and stuff like that, right? Like, it makes me hate Paulie for that, but if you throw out that story and just hop on board with Paulie being, like a stand-up kind of representation of the old school Italian traditional mafia kind of way, then Paulie is a solid character through and through. But yeah, unfortunately, the real life Paul Vario was cheating with Karen behind Henry Hill's back, and yeah, dude, that's not cool. DeNiro. Paul Sorvino's awesome, man. I really do love his character in the movie Money Talks, when he plays like, I think it's like Heather Locklear's father in Beverly Hills or something in Money Talks. And he's like loaded, and him and Chris Tucker go to the auction and buy like a Jaguar or something. Thing I love about Wise Guys are, like, there's like a joke on every page, right? Like, she'll kill him, but she won't divorce him. And now here we got some of the Florida scenes. I like that scene they have of the line it looks like it's smelling the blood from yeah from the person that they're, but yeah, it's a good scene. That picture of Jimmy being arrested, that's again, that's another iconic picture. So good. And notice in the courtroom that when Jimmy was sentenced, Jimmy just stood there, you know, and Henry was like, "Oh fuck, how am I gonna get out of this?" Which is kind of showing his character developing into somebody who's, you know, eventually gonna rat. Getting into the back of a fancy Cadillac, or is it the front? Yeah, the back of the fancy Cadillac there. Reminds you of the scene in The Simpsons where Bart joins the mafia, and Fat Tony and Louie and all of them are saying that crime doesn't pay, and then they all hop into their own limo each. Oh, Martin Scorsese's father is about to be in this movie, if I'm not mistaken. Nice little cooking show. Vinny, I think that's Charles Scorsese. Let me see the eyebrows. Oh yeah, yeah, and then that, yep, that's definitely Martin's father there. Martin Scorsese's father there. Respect. That man made a legend. You know, him and Catherine made a legend. And that whole thing where couples kind of start to look alike when they're together for a long time thing, like to a certain degree, with all due respect, I feel like Charles and Catherine kind of look alike, you know, and yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing, like for Martin Scorsese to have his family a part of the production, you know, like that's awesome. That's awesome. I wish I could be so lucky, you know, like if. You know, if I were to be like, hey, hey, Dad, I'm making a movie. I want you to be in it. He'd probably tell me to go fuck myself. So, like, just to see that level of support in the movie industry that I wish I could be a part of. It's so awesome. But yeah, the way they're like partying inside of jail and shit like that. The way they're partying inside of jail and all that, like, man, like these days you can sneak contraband, like you can sneak in drugs, you can sneak in cell phones, you can do stuff like that. And like, I know this because I have a couple of prison guards that I'm related to and friends with and stuff like that. And you know, like these days you can sneak stuff like that into prison, but back then it must have been so much easier without all of the cameras and the digital kind of shit and the and now like when you enter, they give you like a full body scan and x-ray to make sure you got nothing on you, stuff like that. So like the precautions are getting harder and harder to work around, but because we're all human and we figure shit out, and that's part of what we do as a human species, there are criminals these days who are on the inside who actually fucking still sneaking heroin, still sneaking like, you know, meth and shit like that. You know what I mean? So a lot of people actually develop drug habits inside of prison, and it kind of makes me wonder how, like eventually Henry Hill starts messing around with drugs and shit like that. But it makes me wonder if Henry Hill picked up a drug addiction inside of the slammer, even though they don't really point that out or anything like that. But yeah. But yeah, I think that's Stella Cattell again. Oh wait, no, there's Stella in the bottom left corner there. But yeah, Stella's like 39 now, and I saw a picture of what she looks like quite recently, and my God, she's a beautiful woman there. That Harvey Keitel and Lorraine Bracco really made a beautiful woman there. So respect to Harvey Keitel, who was, of course, in other Martin Scorsese movies. Quite notably, let's go with Taxi Driver, when he was the pimp in Taxi Driver. Man, I want to watch The Irishman after this, maybe. I probably won't do a podcast about it, but until later. But yeah, The Irishman has like everybody in there. And Bill Burr pointed out that when it comes to Martin Scorsese's The Irishman is like a beautiful movie where we get to say goodbye to these guys, because odds are they'll never make another mafia movie like that again. And to see, Pesci, DeNiro, Pacino, Cattell, like all the old school mafia actors and stuff like that, to see them in that movie, phenomenal. And actually, Martin Scorsese has shown regret for not being able to work with Ray Liotta before Ray Liotta passed on May 26, 2022. And the reason I remember that Ray Liotta passed on May 26, 2022 is because that was one of my daughter's second birthdays. So yeah, like Karen's sweet character development there, like just from a sweet, nice Jewish girl, and like, being shocked by the life of crime that Henry is a part of, like to her being corrupted by that lifestyle. Like, it just shows like Martin Scorsese knows story development and structure, and he's a genius, dude. Martin Scorsese is a genius. And I know Nicholas Pileggi wrote the book, but the way Martin Scorsese takes it and puts it up on the screen for everybody who loves movies more, just like, that's genius. And Tutty is getting older, as you can tell, like by the way Tutty's hairline is compared to the way Tutty's hairline was. You got Paulie becoming more gray, and of course, next scene I think Jimmy's going to be more gray. But oh yeah, so I was on the inside where Henry Hill developed his drug habits. In real life, the real Henry Hill tried to escape the mafia life, and he ended up going to the army. I think it was like the 82nd Airborne, something like that. Paulie is so good in this scene. That smack that Paulie gives Henry there, that was apparently it was like ad-libbed by Paulie, which is why you see Henry kind of like after when he smacked, it's like his eyebrows go up. So it's like a authentic reaction to Paulie talking sense into him. But yeah, like the real Henry was in like the 82nd Airborne, I think it was, and he ended up stealing a car from some local sheriff, and he was in the stockade and all that stuff, and then eventually he ended up going back to the life where just, making money, all that stuff, hard to get out of, right? But I love that cut from Paulie being like, hey, smarten up, no drug life and all that stuff, and then they cut to Henry weighing drugs, doing the coke, all that shit. Tobin Bell, Saw. Yeah, Tobin Bell from Saw is in here. Tobin Bell is awesome. I saw, was it like Saw 10 or whatever it was in theaters, and man, he's still giving her. My favorite though is Saw 2. Spoiler alert for Saw 2 here. But during Saw 2, when Tobin Bell has Donnie Wahlberg's son, there's a safe right next to him that Donnie Wahlberg's son is in. And throughout the whole movie, Jigsaw's like, you could say your son is in a safe place. Like the whole time Tobin Bell is like that. It's hilarious. It's a good movie. I apologize if I spoiled Saw 2 for anybody, but yeah. But yeah, Maury being a pain in the ass here, dude. That's Maury's downfall. I want to look at who Maury is here. Let's see. Goodfellas, Maury, actor. Chuck Lowe. For some reason, I feel like I should know that. But yeah, Chuck Lowe does such a good job. Johnny Roastbeef. Fucking Samuel L. Jackson, Stax Edwards. I can't remember. I think it's Chuck Lowe had a connection with Robert De Niro and his agent or something like that. And I think Chuck Lowe was like a real estate agent or something. And correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, like his him not being a real actor to a certain extent, like now he's a real actor, cemented it as a legend as Maury. But him not being that real actor actually like really like played well on screen for this movie, as Maury is supposed to be as obnoxious as a guy who does his own film commentary podcast. But yeah, like, I like to give coke dealers a hard time. Be like, like single individually coke dealers are usually like bullies and shit like that, right? But like as somebody who has allegedly partied a lot, and when I was a teenager, I could see the hype. I could see I could see why people gravitate towards that lifestyle, dude. Yeah, there's one instance in this scene where the sound department, they have like an overdub that is both it's like two different audio dialogues of Ray Liotta, and you can hear the echo in the background, and then they fix it right away. Yeah. So yeah, this is that heist. That heist is what made Henry Hill, like the most famous, right? Like that was like his main thing there. Like if it wasn't for that heist, I don't think this movie ever would have gotten made or whatever. Johnny Roast Beef. This Johnny Roast Beef scene, so good. Cause like Johnny Roast Beef is like, he seems so happy when he showed Jimmy the car, and then he just gets berated by Jimmy. Fuck. What the fuck is the matter with you? Fuck, DeNiro's so good, man. How did De Niro not also win an Oscar for this movie? This movie's just perfect. Like every lead actor in this movie could have won an Oscar. And I am happy for Joe Pesci. And was like, here's a really like fun fact. Not a lot of people know this, but the guy playing Tommy in this movie was actually the same robber from the movie Home Alone. I'm just joking. Everybody knows that. I'm just joking. But yeah, Carbone throughout the whole movie has been a pretty stand-up guy, except for this instance here. And the thing about Carbone here, like, I love how he gives his woman shit because, Jimmy just gave him shit and he tells his woman to shut the fuck up as he throws her out the door to go, like, get rid of that mink coat. That part's hilarious. If I even look at anybody else, he'll kill me. Oh, that's great. Maury is in his right here, but at the same time, Chuck Lowe playing Maury does such a really good job at being a pain in the ass that a part of you is like, man, when are they gonna fucking whack this guy, yo? Aw. Saying aw because Morris's wife later on and all that, yeah. See, all Jimmy had to do was give Maury his money, that he fucking gives Henry his money, but he doesn't fucking give Maury his money. But I think that he had no intention of sharing whatsoever, and he was kind of looking for excuses to, start whacking people and shit like that, which is... So yeah, Robert De Niro, he didn't like using fake money. He said that it didn't feel like real money. It felt like we were playing make-believe. So there was like a assistant director or whatever who would bring like $5,000 on set or whatever it was. And he would give Robert De Niro a stack of money. And yeah, basically they used real money for that realism, and that's fucking awesome. And this scene's awesome, dude. This whole movie's awesome. Yeah, Joe Pesci being so hilarious and sadistic at the same time, man. That scene is so fucking good because like they use the blood exploding pack, and then this part right here. Take that coffee to go. It's a joke. But yeah, like that blood pack that Samuel L. Jackson like had in front of him or whatever that explodes the same time that Joe Pesci shoots his gun. Like that shit, dude. Looks so fucking good. And the scene with the silencer, like how loud they're making it right now when Tommy is shooting with the silencer. Like to me, that seems more realistic because silencers do muffle some of the sound, but it's still a gunshot and it's still an explosion. It's still loud. But yeah, Samuel L. Jackson, you know who he is. He's one of the greatest actors ever. Being killed off in Goodfellas at around the 1 hour 40-minute mark. The connection from this movie to my last podcast, which was American History X, is the movie The Score. So I'll do the connection here. It's Shawshank Redemption, and then I did American History X, and then Goodfellas. So Shawshank Redemption had Clancy Brown in it, who worked with Edward Furlong in Pet Sematary 2, and then Edward Furlong, bam, American History X. American History X, Edward Norton worked with Robert De Niro in the movie The Score, who was in Goodfellas, and that is the connection game that I like to play when it comes to these podcasts. But that is how it connects to American History X. To Robert De Niro. But to be fair, you can connect Robert De Niro to like any actor in Hollywood, basically. Can't help but feel bad for Maury here. Because like it sounds like he was a very like maybe not like an absolute key to the airport heist, but it was a group effort, the airport heist, and when it's a group effort, everybody in the group should get paid, but greed often imprisons us all. And right now, Jimmy is looking for excuses to keep the money that they stole. Cream, Sunshine of Your Love. In about 5 seconds here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, here it is. Scorsese would blast tunes that he knew he was going to put in the movie before scenes to get the attitude in line. Right here, I believe that Robert De Niro got to listen to Cream Sunshine of Your Love quite a bit, and just to have the attitude of smoking a cigarette while deciding he's going to kill Maury. Think Maury tells his wife everything. See, that's why I couldn't be a mobster, because I would, if I get married, I'm gonna, I'm a very honest guy, like I'm gonna tell my wife everything, That's what getting married's about, in my eyes. But You know? Yeah, yeah. Just saying. So like, do you think Maury tells his wife everything? Yes. Takes a certain kind of sociopath to lie to somebody you love and cheat on them. And in this movie, these criminal minds have that sociopathic nature. Like as I've been fucking cheated on before and like lied to and like framed and shit like that because I got cheated on and stuff like that. Like experiencing that fucking just inhumanity, that sociopathic, fucking narcissistic, lying, fucking egotistical, fucking like experiencing that criminal mind firsthand. It's just it's just so hopeless if you fall in love with somebody who's a criminal mind. I love how he plays Henry there in that scene, yeah. Jimmy playing Henry. Like judging by the scene, right? Like it looked like Jimmy could tell that Henry was feeling a bit on edge and uneasy because he was anticipating that Jimmy wanted to whack Maury, right? So I think Jimmy was like, okay, I'm just gonna tell this guy what he needs to hear so that he'll fucking, you know, he'll stop panicking and, like showing that tell. Like Henry Hill had a tell during that part, and I think Jimmy was like, "Hey man, just forget about it. We're not gonna whack him tonight." And then, fuck yeah. That's my favorite death scene in this movie. That's my favorite death scene in the movie, dude. Because they play Maury so well. They show us, the audience, Jimmy playing Henry. And then when Maury sits down, fucking gets killed. The Carbone and Tommy episodes, the Carbone and Tommy scenes are hilarious. That woman looks familiar. Is that Amy Madigan? Hang on, I'm just gonna look at it. Who is Maury's wife in Goodfellas? No, that's not her. Okay. Like as far as I can tell, that's not her. But yeah, she looked a bit like that woman from Weapons, Amy Madigan, and I guess that would make her way older than she. Well, she's pretty old in the movie Weapons, but good movie by the way. It's 2025. That was released like a couple months ago. It was in theaters for about like a month. Weapons there. But yeah, I love that scene where he wakes up the FBI agents that are fucking stalking him and shit like that. Love this scene, man. Johnny roast beef. Well, like I love Johnny roast beef's part when he was like, I'm sorry, Jimmy." And he was just fucking slaughtered in that car next to his wife. And then they find Frenchie, I think. Right? Is that Frenchie? No, that's somebody else. In the back of the fucking dump truck, dude. It's wild. Oh yeah, so there are two bodies in there. One of them was Frenchie. Yeah. Yep. That whole part there, it's like he could have just given him that money to like Maury and stuff like that. But the way people were spending too much, it was too heat for Jimmy. And Jimmy ended up killing everybody that was expendable in regards to him getting caught for the airport heist. And the only people left alive for the airport heist now, Carbone! No! Lou, the gangster from The Simpsons. But yeah, dude, like the way Jimmy slaughters everybody, fucking kills everybody, and then all that is left now is like, you know, Tommy, Henry, and like Paulie. Those are like the only people that are left alive that know about that airport heist, I believe. And the beautiful transition from the grim hits and the murder and death to Tommy being made, as Jim Brewer explained. Aw. Aw. Tommy's mom giving him the last kiss goodbye. But yeah, the way Jim Brewer explained it in his bit, in his special, Country Boy Will Survive. Go check out that special. He explained it as like, we thought that, Joe Pesci made it, and we were all like, oh my God, we made it. Only for this, like, check out that Jim Brewer bit. I didn't want to spoil it for you, so check out Country Boy Will Survive by Jim Brewer. But yeah, Pesci, Tommy DeVito has no idea what's going to happen here. When'd you get made? Yeah, the amazing thing is like, Paulie is on the sidelines throughout the entire movie instead of it being another mob boss movie. In real life, it is believed that Paul Vario, aka Paul Cicero, aka Paul Sorvino, it has been said that he was the one who put the hit out on Tommy. So when I said earlier that Paulie is onto him, that's Paulie like slowly devising a plan to kill Tommy. Jimmy's best friend is dead. It was a very good scene. Just takes his rage out on that fucking phone booth. Fucking love that. Like, what you call it? That Robert De Niro was constantly on the phone with Henry Hill, the real Henry Hill. But yeah, like Robert De Niro was on the phone with Henry Hill a lot, and he was constantly asking how Jimmy Burke would act and how Jimmy Burke would be, to the point where that it has been said that Robert De Niro is not just acting, he is channeling Jimmy Burke. So like the way he does this tough guy cry here, The way, that tough guy cry where he doesn't shed any tears, but at the same time you can see the anguish inside of Robert De Niro playing Jimmy Burke. Like, that part is fucking epic. And of course, this scene right here, like, yeah, the paranoia and all that stuff, but this scene has been noted as one of the most authentic portrayals of cocaine addiction in like any movie ever. And like a method actor, like, I don't know if Ray Liotta got to use actual coke. He never admitted anything like that. But but according to what I read, there was that Ray Liotta pushed himself to the limits by staying awake for days, popping caffeine pills to have that really like look bent out of shape look. Shit's raw in your head, bro. Shit's raw in your brain, right? Oh, mind in the mush. But yeah, this has been portrayed as one of the most realistic cocaine addictions a character has ever had. I buy it. Every time I see a helicopter in the sky, like just for fun when I'm driving, kind of act out this scene. But I got a lot of different bits that I do when I'm driving just to amuse myself. One of them is Henry Hill when there's like a helicopter in the sky. Another one is Jim Carrey, When Nature Calls, when he's driving on that smooth road. He's like bouncing his head like he's driving on a fucking back road safari. I'll do that once in a while. Yeah, I can't remember what his brother's name is. I think it's like Kevin something. Let me check here. Actor who plays Henry Hill's brother. Yeah, Kevin Corrigan. My favorite Kevin Corrigan roles are like side roles. Superbad and Pineapple Express. So, yeah, basically those two Seth Rogen movies that Kevin Corrigan is part of. Those are my favorite roles. And now we see that Karen is like a full-on drug-dealing drug addict. So it's like, it's from Jewish, like sweet Jewish girl to like full-on drug-dealing drug addict. And Martin Scorsese has said that the message is that even though there's a glamorous lifestyle to it, that these people's lives are more centered around destruction than building and constructing anything useful, right? Like he's like depicting a self-sabotaging lifestyle that is about like destroying your own life and the people around you. So like Henry Hill's being thrust into the mafia and at the same time falling in love with Karen, or Karen falling in love with him, shows that not only is he fucking his own life up by possibly ending up dead or in jail, he's fucking up Karen's life, his kid's life, all that shit. So I miss phone booths and those pay phones, man. Still a couple around, but it was a simpler time, you know? Without cell phones and shit like that, it was a simpler time for sure. Yeah. Yeah, drug addiction can happen to anybody, ladies and gentlemen. So that, you know, Lorraine Bracco playing that, like how she is now addicted to drugs and shit like that. Like that's so like I said, everything in this movie is it's almost like a documentary. It's so fucking realistic. The fact that the life got Karen Hill. Lorraine Bracco plays that like a fucking genius. Then of course you have the cocaine girlfriend there, Debbie Mazer. I think it was that Debbie Mazer or his sister. Yeah, that was Debbie Mazer. But yeah, it was said that Ray Liotta hadn't slept in days, and it certainly looks like it. Even though like some of it's makeup, but it certainly looks like he hasn't slept in days. So when an actor has that level of dedication, it pays off. And Goodfellas being one of the greatest movies of all time, not just crime movies, but just the perfect storm of genius and madness all at once. Fucking Lois. He told her not to use the home phone because the home phone was being tapped. But no. Yeah, like even Debbie Mazer's character looked really classy and sweet, and then all of the drugs that Henry brings into her apartment and shit like that, and like that's destroying her life. So it's like Henry Hill and the whole crew. It's like they're like the tornado in other people's lives, slowly destroying it. It's a waste of good coke. She throws the coke at the door. There's the real villain of Goodfellas right there, Lois. No, I'm just talking about. Yeah, I love the music. Yep. Here it is, man. The beginning of the end. Well, I guess the beginning of the end was when they killed bats, but I think she did the right thing by flushing it because they were going to search the house and all that. Is this? I can't remember if this is the guy or not. I can't remember if this is the arresting officer, like the actual arresting officer of Henry Hill or not. But yeah, like the original arresting officer of the real life Henry Hill did a couple of screen tests, and Martin Scorsese was like really, really like, wow, you're like a natural, you're like a pro. And basically, the real agent said that, hey, I was just doing my job. So instead of like just because like he's playing the guy who actually arrests Henry Hill, like he's actually just doing his job, you know? Which is why he plays it so well, right? I think that's that guy at the desk there, but the orange jumpsuit. Every time that I've had to go anywhere, get locked up, all that stuff there, like it was always like a gray sweater and gray sweatpants, like shitty white socks and like shitty spongy sandals. But I mean, the cost of housing an inmate can rise anywhere from 50 to like 100 grand a year, man. Like it gets expensive. So considering the amount of people locked up, they got to cut corners everywhere they can, budget wise, when it comes to the government attempting to ensure the safety of people in the community by locking away actual monsters. First time I got locked up, a guy threatened to kill me, and we got into a fight because he said we had to fight, and I ended up winning that fight. Then I got locked up for a weekend. Second time I got arrested, that was I wrote love letters to my baby mama Barbara, and yeah, like that one I'm proud of because I get to tell my son that, hey, daddy tried his best to give you the family that she asked. And then third time I got arrested, I was literally framed. That was in 2021. And then the most recent time I got arrested there, I have the conditions somewhere there. Somewhere around here. Hang on, I'll get them for you right now. The most recent time I got arrested here, I'll show you what I can. Yeah, I can show you this page here. Most recent time I got arrested was right here for uttering threats, and I'm actually in house arrest right now. So, like, I'm already reformed, ladies and gentlemen. Like, like I have no chance of recidivism. I just express myself, and that uttering threats thing that I had to experience, that was over a Facebook post, and I didn't even threaten anybody, but I took accountability for writing it. I said, yeah, I wrote it, but I didn't threaten anybody. And the Crown rigged the system against me because I wasn't allowed to question my accuser, and it was just overall rigged. They told me I would be judged differently because of the color of my skin, and here we are. Here we are, locked up together, me and you, and I appreciate you watching this with me if you watched it with me this far. But yeah, that scene where Ray Liotta was crying, like, oh my God, Karen, oh my God. Like while filming, Ray Liotta's mom died while filming. And I don't think it was very far off to say that the emotion that Ray Liotta is showing now and the emotion that Paul Sorvino is showing, and when Henry was crying earlier in the scene just before this, I don't think it's far off to say that he was crying for his mother because she passed away during filming this movie. Like when he walks crying out the bar there, like I believe Ray Liotta's crying real tears for his mother there. Yeah, I love how Karen calls Henry totally paranoid because of the drugs. And then in this scene, that exact same paranoia that she was making fun of Henry for having is the kind of paranoia that she conveys. I love that old movie trick. Give him glasses. He looks older. No one will ever know except for the real Jimmy Burke who died. Like, you know, if this scene actually happened with Karen Hill and the dresses and stuff like that, like no one will actually know except for Jimmy Burke who passed away in prison. No one will ever know that if he was actually meaning to ever kill Karen Hill. Except for Jimmy, nobody will ever know. The way it's filmed, though, you can kind of see the crew in the reflection of the store windows and stuff like that. But yeah, the way it's filmed, it looks way too seedy and shady. And I believe that, what I'm shown, that Karen's life was in jeopardy there. And her instincts were right on cue there. That's sound effects for dramatic effect. Squealing tires as she drives away. But yeah, man, here's where they're both really afraid for their lives. And during the interview, I can't remember who it is here, but like during the interview that Henry Hill had with I think it's like Tony Vecchione or something like that. During the interview, Henry Hill started mentioning that Jimmy was a complete psychopath who would have killed his entire family to get to Henry Hill if he had left Jimmy free to do so. There's a restaurant in the background in the scene called Hero Sandwiches. That sounds delicious. I want a hero sandwich. that scene where he's telling Henry not to talk on the phone and shit like that. Well, they're taking our data right now using our cell phones and shit like that. They're constantly keeping track of us. And yeah, that Edward Snowden thing, like that shit's very real, man. They have access to everything, so they'll always be watching from now on. Yeah, like ever since basically like the first fucking smartphone came out, they've been watching us. Looks like a good breakfast. Nice little diner. Fucking miss going to like Salisbury House or like Riverboat or something every morning. So yeah, in an interview with the real Henry Hill, he has praised the FBI for saving his life, which is pretty epic considering that he spent like three and a half decades or whatever it was being a mobster, being a criminal, being a gangster, only for him to, instead of ending up dead and killed by Jimmy Burke, I guess, you know, he only had those two choices for the most part, right? Killed by Jimmy Burke, dead, or like prison, or to rat. And he chose to rat, right? But it's a very realistic outcome for how self-preservation is a reality in this world. Like a movie like Scarface, for example, like spoiler alert about Scarface, you know, like the way like it ends with him being like, fuck you, man, and all that shit. Like sure that could happen in real life, but realistically, like this movie Goodfellas, where Henry, after his entire life of crime, decides to fold under the pressure and like fucking rat out the people that he grew up around and stuff like that. That's a very realistic, like it's based on his real life. So I mean, like him ratting on Jimmy to save himself and his life there, that seems very realistic. And what you call it, if for example Henry Hill decided to kill Jimmy Burke, then he would have to deal with he would have had to have deal with Paul Vario. If if Henry Hill had to like kill anybody that was coming up against him, eventually like the mob goes that deep that they would have came after him eventually. So like he locked up the main people that were a threat to his safety, and they locked him into the witness protection system. And while in witness protection, Henry Hill was being contacted by Scorsese, Robert DeNiro, the production crew, and all that stuff, and they had special permission from the FBI to talk with Henry Hill back and forth, so that they can gain a certain level of authenticity in this movie when portraying the characters. And Paul's heart just breaks there. But yeah, like the information that Henry Hill gave the cast and crew members to make this movie that much more authentic, shit like that. Like Henry Hill was actually breaking the protocols that were in place for witness protection. And basically Henry Hill was like, hey guys, that movie Goodfellas, Ray Liotta's character, that's based on me. So like basically the real Henry Hill was going around doing that, and like going to bars and shit, be like, hey, you want to buy me a drink? And I'm like, why the fuck would I want to buy you a drink? You know who Henry Hill is? Goodfellas? It's me. Like basically he was going around doing that. And then, the witness protection agency was just like, dude, we got to cut you loose. You keep telling people who you are. We're protecting you when you're telling people who you are. Good luck to you. And, And Henry Hill used his story as a way to make a pretty fucking good living after ratting out his friends and crime syndicate that he used to be a part of. And of course, at the ending here, it's like most people who watch this movie hate him. Bill Burr was saying that that scene where Joe Pesci was shooting at the screen, that he thought that was actually Tommy coming back from the dead, like metaphorically to shoot and kill Henry. But it's actually a homage to the Great Train Robbery filmed in 1906. And during the Great Train Robbery, when that was screened, like in the movie theater and shit like that, there was a fourth wall shooting like that, the way Joe Pesci shoots at the screen there. And they fucking, the audiences and shit like that, they were like ducking down, like, oh shit, is he actually shooting at me? Because they didn't get used to screen yet, the big screen yet, the silver screen yet. But yeah, like it's, that ending works on so many levels. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, one of the greatest ever movies about the mafia that will ever be made. Like there are a lot of good movies out there, like Black Mass about Whitey Bulger, that's pretty realistic. That one starring Johnny Depp. There are movies like The Iceman starring, what's his name there, Michael Shannon. And there are other mobster movies out there, but like this is the most realistic one. And like I said, when it comes to The Godfather, that was based on a book that Mario Puzo put together. So that one wasn't exactly an authentic mockumentary. This is almost like a mockumentary, right, of the mafia and shit like that. And yeah, just a shout out to a couple of friends of mine asked what their favorite scenes were. One of my friends said that his favorite scene was when Tommy gets killed and Robert De Niro has the phone and he starts fucking hitting his phone there, starts hitting hitting the phone because Tommy is killed. Yeah, that scene is really epic. And another one of my buddies told me that his favorite part is the soundtrack. And just shout out to him. And the soundtrack on this fucking movie is actually phenomenal. Like my favorite moment is the Cream Sunshine of Your Love part, but then at the same time the Derek and the Dominoes part where everybody's getting whacked and shit like that is so fucking good, dude, so fucking good. But then also that way down inside the ocean, that part where Billy Batts is getting the fuck beat out of him, that's another part that one of my friends said that was his favorites. Personally, my favorite parts are like the glamorous parts, like where Henry's going into the restaurants and he's getting like front row VIP seats to all those singers and comedians and shit like that, and being treated like royalty within the mafia. Those are my favorite parts. And my favorite line is it's gonna be a good summer, from Robert De Niro. But just overall, like, what a magical movie, dude. What a fucking magical movie. Like I said, there's a perfect storm of genius and madness that made this movie one of the best fucking crime drama movies of all time. But there was a lot of comedy in this movie. And I know you're thinking, like, how's it, funny how? Funny how? Like, the fucking coffee scene, you know, like, it's a joke, take that movie to go, it's a joke, you know, shit, that scene, that fucking, you know, obviously the part where they ad-libbed, they filmed that scene, like, they filmed it first by doing an ad-lib, and then after the ad-lib, Martin Scorsese transcribed it, and then they went off of it like that. So it basically started like an ad-lib scene, and then they, they turned it into a script. So, and then they worked on that scene, and they got just like the most beautiful scene, which won Joe Pesci an Oscar. And he gave, when he gave his speech, it was my privilege. Thank you. One of the shortest Oscar speeches of all time, dude. And just fucking love this movie, man. It's a fucking great movie. So if you watch this movie with me all the way through, thank you. I really appreciate it. I hope you love Goodfellas as much as I do. And overall, ladies and gentlemen, crime does pay until it doesn't. I don't know what more to tell you, but this is the most realistic depiction of a life of crime that I have ever experienced in terms of movies that I love and enjoy. But that right there, ladies and gentlemen, was Antisocial Commentary number 3, Goodfellas. And just want to say thank you for watching. Cheers, love, respect. Signing off. Here we go. Cut. Thanks, everybody.